Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Wizards podcast. It's your host, the real Ed Oliver, and today we have special guest Brandon Scott, longtime listener, longtime Washington Wizards fan, and DC sports fan. Today we're going to get into the lineup of the rotations. Before we do get into it, I just want to thank you guys for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts. Brandon, how you feeling today?
Doing well. How's everybody doing? Excited to be here.
Yes, sir. All right, so like I said, we're going to talk about lineups and rotations, maybe some minute distribution here, what lineups we like to see, who our starting five is, closing lineups, starting lineups, defense, situational parts of the game, which guys you would have in, which guys you would have out. So just to get started, who is your starting five?
Starting five. At the point guard position, got to go with Monte Morris. Key acquisition this offseason. Reason I like Morris at the point guard position, I will admit I was a little skeptical because, Spencer did with the combo guard experiment we did last offseason. But, the one thing we've been trying to see from this lineup for a while is picking the pace up. I think with Morris, the tempo will get faster. And I see Bradley Beal making a comeback statistical-wise because the tempo is going to be faster this season. So I see Monte Morris starting point, backup point. I do see Delon Wright. He can defend. He can shoot from behind the arc. Perfect point guard to lead the second unit. So if point guard position, I see it's an upgrade. We definitely upgraded this offseason. Two guard, obviously, the real Bill. Franchise guy. He's two guard. Backup. This is the one spot that's kind of at first you want to say Corey Kispert at the two guard backing up Bill, but Johnny Davis, summer league wasn't the best showing, but I do think he will bounce back, and you could see, Johnny Davis making his way into the lineup, backing up Bill at the two guard position. On the wing, man, this is the question of all season. You know what I mean? Who's going to play the wing? But I see, Will Barton, but I can, you can definitely see Kyle Kuzma maybe play the three. But for right now, I would say Will Barton's going to be the small forward starting going forward, and backing him up. I see Denny Avdia. Denny, I like seeing the videos of him improving his shot. With Drew Hanlon, I like what I see from him. So the power forward position. Kyle Kuzma for right now, obviously being the vet guy, and backing him up would be Rui. Is obviously subject to change, and finally the center position. You got to go with KP. Gafford would be the backup. So that would be my starting five.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think, Wes brought in Monte Morris to start, obviously, Wes and Tommy Shepard bringing in his Nuggets guys. Of course, real deal Bradley Beal starting at the two, Barton at the three. I think that's the biggest question mark or the biggest competition. Is it going to be Rui Hachimura? Is it going to be Denny Avdia starting at the three? I think Wes and Tommy, they brought the Nuggets guys here for a reason, and I think they brought Will Barton here to make Wes Unseld comfortable. And Will Barton and Monte Morris, they're better three-point shooters. They're better, shooters than what we had last year. And Spencer Dinwiddie and some other guys on the roster. You did trade away KCP, who was one of your better three-point shooters. But Will Barton, he shoots about 37% from the three. For his career, Monte Morris, 37% from the three last year as well at the point guard position. Denny, he just has to improve on finishing around the room. I know defensively it would be somewhat of a sieve defensively. I know real plus defensive minus. Will Barton he was top 20, so was Monte Morris. But we just got to see competitions. Rui's in there too, but Tommy Shepard talked about these guys, being reserves during the summer league in interviews. So we'll see what happens there. But I think my prediction is Will Barton, just like yours. He brings playmaking and athleticism. Then at the four, Kuzma. I think he earned that spot last year with how well he played. He was super clutch for the team, so he was our best clutch player, best player in the crunch time. And then, of course, the unicorn Porzingis at the five. So we basically are on the same page.
Yes, sir. Here's the thing with depth. We have a lot of depth, and that's a good thing. Looking at the contract situation, we knew that Bradley Beal was going to sign a Supermax. So, finding the pieces to kind of fit around there. And, and like I said, I like the direction that Tommy's going. He's trying. I think John Collins would be an upgrade. Looking at this lineup, and and so that the plus with this lineup is you have a lot of depth and you have a lot of pieces that could easily fit in, or you could trade. There's a lot of things he could do in a general manager's office. So I like the team going forward. I really do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the point about Johnny Davis, that's an interesting one. I do want to ask you about that one too. We'll get to our 10 guys in the rotation, who we think is going to be a part of the rotation. I think that's where it gets a little dicey with Johnny Davis and some other guys. But before we do get into the rotation, our 10-man rotation, or you might have an 11-man rotation, I don't know. But before we do get into that, this episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports, wagering information from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline where the game starts. And then, you brought up an interesting point about John Collins. I talked about that in the episode with the Locked On Hawks podcast. I don't see it happening. If they were able to keep Kuzma, I would make the move. But if Kuzma's involved, I've said this before, I just think it's a lateral move. But John Collins would definitely raise the athleticism and the shooting and the spacing. But I just think if you have to include Kuz, then I wouldn't do the deal.
Yeah, I agree. And you kind of see the pain of being a general manager because,
Right.
you see players you like. I mean, Kuz came up big, and he broke a lot of stigmas about his game last season. If you look at it, a lot of people looked at his Laker years and saying, his success was because, it was a young team, so he had more touches. Then LeBron shows up and, they're saying he rode LeBron. And I don't agree. His game took a significant step forward last season. You saw a lot of leadership. You saw, and I'm not always a believer in, the championship. Sometimes people just happen to be on the team. Sometimes people, but you see the mentality as far as bringing that Lakers mentality over to the Washington Wizards. The leadership was just wow. Especially with a lot of the stuff that happened last season with leadership. He stepped up big. So I mean, his value went up. The way the organization probably views him has gone up, and so I definitely like what I saw from Kuz last season.
Definitely, yeah. I like how you brought up leadership. So this ties into somewhat of the logjam they had last year. Guys fighting for minutes, guys fighting for touches, being vocal about getting enough touches. We had a couple of disputes in the locker room and conflicts. So we have a lot of depth at pieces, but I know the words that were used last year by the front office was that, it's a good problem to have until it becomes – they kept saying that, but it's a good problem to have until it becomes a problem. So who is your 10-man rotation, and who would you have as the odd man out?
That's hard because I'm a believer in Johnny Davis. I mean, I know his summer league was not the best, but I mean, athleticism. I mean, if you watch him play, I mean, you can't help but to be impressed. His game is, and if you look at a lot of the NBA ready talent in this draft, I think we found a gem. I mean, because his athleticism is through the roof, So yeah, that's where it gets tricky. That 9 to 10 man spot because Kispert last season stepped up. He did a lot more than I think a lot of people expected him to do. A lot of people expected him to be a spot up guy, which he was. But he driving the lane, his IQ showed, and that comes along with playing at a program like Gonzaga. The coaching and shows from college. So 10-man rotation. Obviously, Monte Morris, DeLon Wright, Real Bill, the same lineup. But like you said, the 9 to 10 spot, that's tricky, man.
Right.
Yeah, the last two spots I see Kispert and Johnny Davis because that's the big competition spot. You could say that the 4 will be a competition, but to me, Kuzma's got the 4. Unless he's choosing to play at 3. He's got the 4 just because he played well last year. Really to his credit, he came later in the season. But that 3-point shot, I mean, he improved his game, and that's all you can ask for from Rui is that if you're gonna, things happen in life, and he came late in the game, but he improved his game. And that's the big question mark we had for him before last season was his 3-point shot. So to me, as far as the 10-man roster, those last two spots, Corey Kispert and Johnny Davis, that's where the battle is. So.
Right, yeah. So my list, I'll give you my 10 and then you give your 10. So my
Okay.
10 is of course the starting five with Morris, Monte Morris, Brad Bill, Will Barton, Kuz at the 4, Porzingis at the 5, backing them up. Like you basically said your backups with DeLon Wright. You did say Johnny Davis or Kispert. So I got Kispert right behind Bill. I do have Johnny Davis as the third string shooting guard. And a lot of it is because of the summer league. And, I'm a big Johnny Davis fan too. I really like what I saw at Wisconsin. I love the defense. I love the effort, the energy. I know, the mid-range game is not the prettiest analytic way of scoring the ball. He made a lot of tough shots, used physicality, former football player. A lot of isolations at Wisconsin, had the ball in his hands a lot, which is going to be different here. He's going to be more of a 3-and-D guy. And, he didn't create a lot of separation in the summer league and wasn't good from the – he was actually better – he still wasn't good from the three-point line. It was like 33% as well. But just didn't have a lot of counter moves, got stopped, got stuck on the island. So it is concerning. But I think he can get some minutes out there defensively. But, yeah, I got DeLon Wright backing up Morris, Kispert backing up Bill. You brought up Kispert being a really coachable player, really good moving without the ball, really good cutter, can knock down a 3, of course, played a lot better in the second half, is athletic too, is an athletic finisher as well. Denny right behind Will Barton, so that's 8 guys right there. Rui is the 9th guy right behind Kyle Kuzma. Daniel Gafford is my 10th guy right behind Porzingis. Johnny Davis would be 3rd string for me right behind Corey Kispert. Isaiah Todd would be 3rd string right behind Rui if he's on the roster. Taj Gibson would be my 3rd big. And then Vernon Carey would be the 4th center. Jordan Shackle, if he makes the roster, he would be the 3rd point guard.
Okay. And I hate to use the easy way out, but that's exactly what I would have chosen.
Right.
Like I said, a lot of depth. Summer League, I'll tell you what else really impressed me in Summer League, Vernon Carey. He really showed out. I like what I saw from him. Taj Gibson, a lot of people, raise eyebrows with the move to get him, but I mean, you can't put a price on leadership. And he's proven that even, in advanced years. I'm not going to, call advanced years because I'm 36, but he's older, NBA standards wise, but the leadership, you look at any championship pedigree team, leadership is the biggest key. This last couple of days, you've heard a lot about Draymond Green, him asking for a max contract extension. And then, it's got people thinking, what price do you put on leadership? And then you can easily look at Golden State and say, without Draymond Green's leadership, do they still win those championships? And you can get even farther back. Look at the leadership and the defensive prowess of Dennis Rodman with the Bulls teams. The leadership showed up, so leadership's big. So, looking at and I hate to, go off topic, but, looking at the rotation, it's hard because where do you really play Taj Gibson? Because I think he's still got, a little game left to play. So, it's tough. It's tough, but depth, depth's a good thing. But like you said, it could be a good thing till it's not. And, last year, we went on the road 10-3 and, people were looking at like, it's my time to get some playing minutes and it became an issue. So, I'm with you. That would be mine too.
Right. Yeah. Trez, he was getting MVP chance. He was legitimately an MVP candidate when we were 10-3. He wanted more touches. He said, Scroll get a nut and then didn't really not knowing his role. But no, I like the points that you brought up about Taj. Taj is going to be a good leader. He may not, put up double doubles or 20 points and 10 rebounds or anything like he did with the Bulls when he was killing the Wizards back in the playoffs a couple of years ago. But no, he's going to be a good leader. I mean, he's going to have that Udonis Haslem type of role for the Miami Heat. I know the Wizards don't have, excuse me, they haven't had, playoff success like the Miami Heat have the past couple of years or decade. But I think he can come in and have a Udonis Haslem role. Now, when Gafford, when he does get in foul, if I'm going to say when I don't want to say when he does because I hate to speak that into existence, but if Gafford, has 2 quick fouls, you're going to have to put another center in there. You're going to have to put another big in there. It could be Vernon Carey, like you brought up. Vernon Carey had a great summer league. He was probably the best player on the Wizards summer league. It was between him and Eshenique and Shackle. But yeah, I think if Gaff gets in foul trouble, then you're going to have to throw Taj Gibson in there. He's just another big body that's going to bring some physicality and toughness in there that the Wizards don't have a lot of. So I think that would be great. But yeah, this is once again that small forward and power forward spot. Guys are going to be fighting for minutes. Barton, is he going to be playing at the 2? Is he going to be at the 3? Would he be better as a 6 man? How do you feel about Will Barton starting? And do you think it's of course it's not always about the starter. It's about who finishes the game. How do you feel about that small forward spot? Do you see Denny Avdia having a chance, or Rui having a chance to compete with Will Barton for that 3 spot?
I say, it's a position that could rapidly change throughout the season. Like I said, obviously you're waiting on the improvements that Denny has made over the offseason. Because if Denny shows out, with the defense last season, his defense, I went to during the 10-3 start, I went to the Milwaukee Bucks game, and this dude shut down Giannis. And that's not an easy job. That's probably the hardest assignment in the NBA outside of your iconic guys like Steph Curry, LeBron. But his defense is elite level defense, and it's you just can't teach that. So he's a shot away. So Will Barton on a really good team, he's a 6 man. But can he start? I compare him a lot to KCP. They're very similar players, very similar games, 3-and-D. KCP, I thought when he started at the 3, he did well. So Will Barton, I think he could do a good job at the 3, but long term, I want to see Denny kind of get into that position.
Right. Yeah. Denny, he just has to work on finishing, making layups, or of course finishing layups, working on his left hand, and I think Will Barton's he's a better finisher around the rim, more athletic, and has a better handle at this moment. Denny, probably has more potential to be a better playmaker, and he's a better defender for sure, and he provides more length. Will Barton 6'6", Denny 6'9", so having long wingspans out there certainly would help. But like you said, I think it's going to be it could definitely change up. Day 1 it may be Will Barton, and then we're into game 10 or 15. It may be Denny, it may be Rui. Rui's just got to improve defensively, but he's more polished offensively. So it's going to be intriguing that 3 spot for sure. And then, like you said, Will Barton on a championship team, he's really a 6 man. Like, that'd probably be the better role for him, just to come in and just be a microwave type of scorer. So, which lineup are you most excited to see this season? If you had to pick one.
That's a good question, man. I'm excited to see several things. First, I want to see the tempo. I want to see how fast they can play with Monte Morris. I think that if you look at Bradley Beal in his career, when he had a point guard that pushed the tempo, he was successful. And in the years he didn't, it showed, because Bradley Beal is, as far as a 3-level scorer, is up there. Whether you like it or not, he's probably one of the best scorers in the game right now, and he is. But as far as a playmaker, and when they played him at the point because they had to, second team, I can see it. And now we have Daylon, and we don't need to, but he's best when he has a point guard who can distribute, who can push the pace. John Wall did. Those years John Wall pushed the pace. Even Sato, Sato, when he came in, he pushed the pace. And so that's what I'm excited to see. Monte pushing the pace, and Brad going, become a scorer. Not so much a distributor, not so much playmaker, but being the scorer. If he can be that elite scorer again, we're good. I want to see how Brad plays with KP. We never really got to see that last season. How they play together, the pick and roll. Man, if you really get that pick and roll going, that's nasty. That's a nasty squad. And, and especially Kuz, how those 3 play together, I think is going to show really where this team is at. If Brad and KP and Kuz come in and they really find that chemistry, because, you saw that chemistry with KP and Kuz kind of building late last season. So that's the lineup I'm really excited to see. Morris, Bill, Kuz, KP, at the, and you could say Will Barton. I want to see, I've always been a big Will Barton fan. So that would be the lineup I would want to see. There's a lot of defense in that lineup. Kuz did very well defensive wise last season, a lot better than people thought he would. And Porzingis, he's not a scrub on the defensive end. A lot of people, the injuries, and I get it, but if you look at his, in advanced stats, he's not a bad defender at the 5 positions. So that would be my lineup that I would really like to see next season.
Yeah, so the starting 5 is definitely an intriguing lineup. Porzingis is, he averaged 1.5 blocks for the last couple of games, the last 17 games of the year with the Wizards. Kuz has been clutch. Yeah, I do want to see them push the pace. I know last year they were like bottom 5 in pace. They, West like to play like a slow, methodical game, defensive minded type of game. I do think they should switch it up and try to push the pace. They do have some athletic guys. Kuz is athletic. Porzingis is a lob threat. So I do think they should push the pace. And like you brought up earlier, Brad was really good with John when they had a point guard that could push the pace. Of course, none of the point guards on the roster are going to be that fast, but they could definitely try to play up tempo and get just get teams off balance for sure. So I do like that lineup as well. Another lineup that I was thinking about, it doesn't have Porzingis in it, but of course I would love to see Porzingis and Brad, their pick and roll and pick and pop, is a lineup with Denny, Rui, and Kuz. I thought they played really well last year together. I thought they meshed well chemistry-wise. They were together. They played really well. And I think, Kuz can play the 5 sometimes as a small ball center. Denny would be your 3 as a lockdown defender, as you brought up earlier. The clamps guarding Giannis and Brandon Ingram and other guys, Jimmy Butler. Did a really solid job against those guys. And then, you have Brad at the 2 or DeLon Wright or Monte Morris at the 1. And then I kind of want to see a shooting lineup, a 3-point shooting lineup. And a lot of people don't like Brad at the point, but he did a solid job at the point sometimes, where he had 27 points, 17 assists against the Bulls, where they lost that game in a buzzer beater against DeMar DeRozan. Maybe you could put Bill at the 1, Kispert at the 2 to knock down threes, Will Barton at the 3 to knock down threes, Rui at the 4 to knock down threes, and Porzingis at the 5 to knock down threes. It'll just be a space the floor, knock down 3 lineup, just for a comeback situation if they're down by like 15. Now I know defensively it would be rough, Barton and Bill and Kuz. Not Kuz, but Rui. It'll be a little rough defensively, but they would be able to space the floor. And Kispert being out there too. But they would really be able to space the floor and navigate a comeback. So, but yeah, I do want to talk about some situational lineups here. So this situation, you got 1 possession left. It's the 4th quarter. And you have 1 timeout left and you need a stop. There's 20 seconds left. What guys are you throwing out there? Which 5 guys are you throwing out there?
Good question, man. And I thought about this one too. I would go tall. Right. I would force, last possession, I'm forcing the team to shoot. And with that, I'm putting Gav at the 5. I'm putting KP at the 4. Mm-hmm. I'm putting Kuz at the 3. I'm actually putting Will Barton at 2 and Brad at the 1. I'm going to do a taller lineup with the last possession because, like I said, I'm going to force the team to shoot and cut the lane off. And that's the thing I like about this team. You got a tall lineup. Kuz, man, So that's what I would go with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's a good lineup. I mean, you got length and wingspan. So I do want to talk about that lineup with KP and Gaff out there because we barely saw last year, but they did a really good job together. You have 2 twin towers out there. You look at other teams like Gobert and Karl Towns and Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. Other teams are starting to go big as well. It's not, they're nowadays, with the Warriors, what they do, they're knocking down threes, the small ball 5. They're going against the grain and bringing back old school, having 2 bigs out there. So that's intriguing there with KP and Gaff if they can have a lineup like that. Just guys running the floor and finishing around the rim and blocking shots. But my lineup, I know you don't have Denny out there, who is arguably our best defender. So I would throw Denny out there. I would have Gaff out there at the 4. I'm thinking Kuz. I think Denny at the 3, Kuz at the 4, Gaff at the 5, Brad at the 2, or I might have to throw in DeLon right at the 2 because I know he's a good defender. He can guard 1 through 3, and Monte Morris. But it would be crazy not to have Brad out there. I know defensively, he's up and down defensively, but I think I would have DeLon right at the 1. He's our better defender out of the 2 point guards. He's really good against steals and deflections. So DeLon at the 1, Bill at the 2, and then Denny at the 3. And then actually, I'm gonna put KP at the 4 and Gaff at the 5. The only concern is just KP guarding, faster guys out there. If they play the Celtics like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, how would he do against a quicker 4?
Yeah, and that's often the concern with putting him at the 4 is how he's going to measure up with Tobias Harris. Because your 4s now, they got KD playing at the 4. So I mean, your 4s are more agile now. You do have your Evan Mobleys out there that are bigger guys, but for the most part, a lot of your 4s with these top teams in the East are athletic guys who could easily play the 3. They're forwards. They're not so much 4s or 3s. They're just forwards. You know what I mean? And that would be my biggest reservation with playing KP at the 4 would be how he can match up with the more athletic fours. And obviously with 5, it carries his own risk too. My biggest thing with Gaff is this, the foul trouble is, that's the big thing. My biggest complaint about him is the foul trouble. If he could stay out of foul trouble and really, and that's where basketball IQ comes in, really, staying in the game, that's my biggest thing with Gaff. So I would love to see Gaff at the 5 and KP at the 4, but we'll see. So
right, yeah. And maybe if Bill is in foul trouble, maybe I put Johnny Davis at the 2 because Johnny Davis was a solid defender in summer league, and he was a good defender in college as well. So getting a lot of steals and deflections as well. Having a long wingspan, being physical out there, being good at the point of attack. So I might even throw Johnny Davis, because they did that with Denny last year. They would have Denny, they would sub Denny in for defense in that last 2 minutes of the game. I think it was the Pelicans game against Brandon Ingram and the game against the Bucks that you talked about, where they would have Denny in for defensive possession. They would sub him out and they would put it was either Bertans or somebody like that to knock down a 3 or be better offensively. If Denny, is still struggling offensively, but he's really giving you a lot defensively, then you could throw Denny. You could do something like that during a timeout or, a foul or something like that. You put Denny in, or you like I said, you would have Johnny Davis in for defense, and then Brad would come back in for offense. But I doubt they take away their max player in Bradley Beal. I highly doubt they take him off the court in that situation. But, just for defensive purposes, I think Johnny Davis definitely could get a look there. So, switching it to the offensive side of the ball. So this possession, you're down 1 point and you need a basket. 20 seconds left, or 1 minute left. Who's a 5 that you're putting out there? Or we can say 20. We'll say 20 seconds left or a minute left. You're down. We can say either down by 1 or 2. Which 5 guys are you putting out there?
Oh man, I would put Morris at the 1. Obviously, Bill at the 2. At the 3, because we're looking for shooters. I would got to go Will Barton at the 3. At the 4, you would have to go Rui. And in the 5, I will go KP. Because like I said, Rui's that 3-point shot looked nice last season. I mean, he really improved. And that's all he really, you can say defense, yeah, he needs to improve. But as far as on the offensive side of the ball, all we were looking for from Rui was that 3-point shot. So, if you need that shot, I think he showed he was very comfortable taking that shot last season, so I would be very comfortable having him in that situation at the 4. So that's what I would.
Who's in there?
Oh, I'm sorry. I had Monte Morris at point. I had obviously Bradley Beal at the 2, Will Barton at the 3, Rui at the 4, and KP at the 5.
The 5, okay. Yeah, the only difference I have is Kuz. I would have Kuz at the 4 just because he was so clutch last year. He was our best clutch player for us, knocking down threes. The Pistons game, the Cavs game, so many clutch moments. Even the Bulls game that we lost, he hit a game. He basically almost hit a game winner. Then DeMar DeRozan hit the 3-pointer to seal the game. But I would have to have Kuz out there at the 4. Rui, that's a tough one. Yeah, I would love to have Rui out there because, like you brought up, he was 44% from the 3-point line, and he can get to the basket too. He's really good posting up, and he has a good mid-range game too. But looking at the other guys that are not, Denny's not in that lineup. DeLon Wright's not in the lineup. Who else is not in the? Denny is not in the lineup. Well, and then DeLon Wright is not in the lineup. Kispert's not in the lineup. Kispert's a guy I might throw in there to knock down a 3 if we're down by 3.
Yeah.
Then Kispert's a guy I would look for. You want to get your best shooters out there. Gaffer's not on there. He's more of a defensive-minded guy and a lob threat. So those are some of the notable guys not in there. Johnny Davis is not in the lineup either. It's the tough one is between Rui and Kuz. But if you're down by 3, if you need a 3-pointer to tie the game, who are you putting in there?
A 3-pointer to be that guy.
Mm-hmm.
By default, you got to go Brad Bill. That money tells you got to be that guy. You know what I mean? That money tells you got to be that guy. You get paid that amount of money, you have to be that guy. So by default, it's Brad Bill. But as far as if I had to choose the guy to make that shot, and real quick, the reason I didn't choose Kuz is because, like you said, he was very clutch. Mm-hmm. But I also saw that, and the same thing with Denny, the confidence thing. Not so much with Kuz confidence, but when Kuz is on, he's on. When he's not, he's not. And that's the only reason I did that. With Denny, He is a confidence thing with him, and I think that's why we're going to see that step forward. Is because last season, when he made mistakes, he got down on himself. He's like, and when you're in, last minute, it's not about, it's time to step up. And so 3-point shot, you got to go with Bradley Bill. I mean, so many factors. He's that guy. You get paid that money. Look, Steph Curry gets paid because he's that guy. You know what I mean? So, you got to be that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, Brad, the only thing is, unfortunately, he hasn't been clutch. He has turned the ball over a lot in clutch moments, tripping over his feet, falling down and whatnot. Before he was injured, he led. I remember the Pistons game, he had a backcourt, which was an unforced turnover, unforced error. But he's got to work on that. And like you said, if he's getting the big bucks, he's the face of the franchise. He's got to be better in the clutch moments for sure. But I'll give my 5 before you give your 5. I'm throwing Kispert in there. If we need a 3, I mean, we drafted him to be the best shooter, one of the best shooters in the league. He was the best shooter in the draft, quote unquote. That's what they said in the scouting report. So Bill, Monte Morris is clutch, man. So I'm gonna have Morris at the 1, at the 2, Bill at the 3, Corey, Kuz at the 4, and then Porzingis at the 5. Who's your 5?
Oh man, I hate to say it. I mean, that's a good lineup. I mean, shooting wise, that's probably the best lineup you could put out there. So I totally agree. That would be who I'd choose. Kispert, his shot, yeah, I was very impressed with Kispert. I didn't know what to expect out of him. I mean, really, that he's going to come in with a high basketball IQ because he came from a program like Gonzaga, and that matters, to a certain degree. When you come out of these schools, if you look at players, come out of places like Duke, North Carolina, they come out with polished games, and they also come out with high basketball IQs. And that's the big thing about, say, guys, you look at the Lakers when they had all those guys, the Julius Randles, they went to other places and they were very successful because of the high IQ, come out of these top programs, Kentucky. So, Kispert, I knew he was going to come in with, good basketball hit on the shoulders because he's coming out of Gonzaga. But he impressed me. The shot, once he figured out the speed of the NBA game and started getting those, the ball out quicker, because he was, the slow shot got him at first. And, people were seeing that and they were stepping up on defense and getting in his face quicker. So he learned to shoot the ball, a lot faster. And his shot was a lot better later in the season. So that would be the lineup I would choose. I mean, that's probably the best lineup.
Yeah, especially if you're on a 3 now. I like the point you brought up about Danny with confidence. Definitely has to work on that for sure. But you brought up the IQ with Corey Kispert as well. I like that. So defensively, how do you like the bench lineup of DeLon Wright, Corey Kispert, Denny, Rui, and Gaff? I can see that one working. Denny would be your point forward, or whether it's Barton at the 2 or Johnny Davis at the 2 as well. Denny could be your point forward coming off the bench. Corey Kispert would be your shooter, and DeLon Wright. But a defensive lineup could be DeLon Wright, Johnny Davis at the 2, Denny at the 3, Rui at the 4. Even though I think Rui can be a good defender. I think Rui was a really good defender in the 2021 season with Russell Westbrook. I thought he was a really good defender, especially in isolation situations. And Daniel Gafford, what do you think about that defensive lineup? Or is there any tweaks that you would look for in a defensive lineup with DeLon Wright, Johnny Davis at the 2, Denny at the 3, Rui at the 4, and Gafford at the 5 as a bench/defensive lineup?
As far as bench defensive wise, yeah, I would definitely have Wright at the 1, and Johnny Davis, I think, is going to be a good defender. I mean, that athleticism, I see him making a step forward. I see him having a really good rookie season. I don't put too much into summer league per se. You've had your good and your bad performances. I think it's still too small of a sample size to a certain degree. But Rui, yeah, I mean, I don't disagree anything. I mean, you had to put Rui at the 4 and then obviously Gafford at the 5. I mean, Gafford, my only knock against Gafford is the fouls. I mean, again, when we made the trade sending Troy Brown over to Chicago, I didn't know what to expect from Daniel Gafford because, his game is not it wasn't widely known at the time. But he really impressed me. Shot blocker, he's really been a big catalyst in defense in the paint. So yeah, that'd definitely be my lineup.
Yeah, you have some switchability there. DeLon Wright can guard 1 through 3. Johnny Davis can guard 1 through 3. You know, he's about 6'5", got a long wingspan. The athletic tools that you brought up as well. Denny's he has switchability. He can guard 1 through 5. Rui has switchability too when he really buys in defensively. Gafford, the only thing is the fouls, but I love the Gaff trade. I think he saved the season when we did have Russ and Bill. We went on a tear. We had like 10 game winning streaks. Finished that year 17-6, and then fought our way into the play-in and got that 8th seed. So Gafford was a huge part of that. He just needs a point guard that can really set him up and get easy lobs. But yeah, before we do head out here, what's your thoughts on the Donovan Mitchell rumors and also Kevin Durant rumors as well? And where do you see the Wizards finishing in the Eastern Conference this year?
Good questions. I think if you're Tommy Shepard, you have to at least put your names in these discussions to let people know that you're trying. I mean, it's a difficult situation with the cap. I think we all knew he was going to sign a supermax. I mean, any of us would have in that situation. It's generational wealth. You can say what you want, but it's going to happen. So I mean, it's going to be crafty to really build around Brad. But you know what, Tommy has impressed me. Now he does need to improve on drafting, but as far as making trades, what can you say? I mean, like I said, I was skeptical at first about the Monte Morris trade just because, I kind of saw Spencer Dinwiddie not so much. I kind of didn't think he was going to be doing well in DC because I looked at his game in Brooklyn and I just didn't see it. So I was very wary about the combo guard. But I think because of tempo, that Morris I think he's the key. I think he's gonna play good at point. So you got to put your names in it, man. Do I see them acquiring either one of them? No, I don't see it because it would take too much of what we don't have. You can look at Ernie Grunfeld, and you can look at a lot of these moves, the Bogdanovich move, the Markieff Morris move, and really point out that, the moves you make now really, really impact your future. If you take back those 2 first rounders, and you can't really take away what Keith did for us or what Bogdanovich did for us for that playoff push, but what could we have done with those first round picks? You know what I mean? And that really points out, so I don't see it happening. I would love to have KD over Mitchell. I don't see Mitchell and Bradley Beal backcourt being successful. You're going to score a ton, but defensive wise, it's non-existent. So KD would be my choice, but I don't see it happen because we don't have what it takes to get it. And KD doesn't want to come home. As much as it hurts, he doesn't want to come home. So right. Where do I see my boys finishing? Man, this is where they stand now with the roster they have now. I can see them at their best finishing 6th to 8th spot. At their worst, 12 to. It's a very open-ended answer. You know what I mean? Because you just don't know. They haven't played together. KP, Bill. They have to build that chemistry. So, like I said, their ceiling to me is a 6th seed. I don't see them going any higher than a 6. Their floor, I don't see them being the worst team in the East, but I can see their floor easily being 10th to the 12th seed. So,
yeah, I think right around that range too. I think they're always in that spot where they're not bad enough to be bad to get a top 5 pick or the first pick of the draft, and they're not good enough to be a championship contender. Now, I think. Yeah, and like you brought up with KD, he's from PG County. He just doesn't want to come back home. We already know this. We went through this with 2016, the hashtag KD to DC, hiring Scott Brooks and whatnot. You can go down the whole road. Donovan Mitchell, like you said, defensively, it would be a concern, but it would be if they're able to keep Porzingis and get Donovan Mitchell, I would be all in for that for sure. But like you said, they just don't have the assets, the first round picks, the players compared to what the Knicks have. The Knicks basically cater their whole offseason just to get picks. They brought in Jalen Brunson, but they got a bunch of picks got more picks so they can acquire Donovan Mitchell. So we got to compete with those teams just to get Donovan Mitchell. But as far as the offseason, I mean the prediction, I 100% agree with you. At best, 6th through 8th, maybe a 5th seed. Definitely depends on Porzingis and his health. He's that big fish. They are thinking that he's the big fish that they acquired, to boost the team and move the needle for them. And he looked good the last couple games. So, like you said, we haven't seen these guys play together yet, so it's a wait-and-see approach. And I think Bill and Porzingis can be a nasty duo, pick and roll, pick and pop. and then get some shooters around them, guys that can knock down a three like Monte and Will Barton. Kuzma, you can have a high octane offense. It's just defensively, Wes Unseld Jr. Can he get guys to buy in defensively, and the chemistry things that happened last year, the problems? Can he get guys to buy in and gel together? So those are the big question marks.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, like I said, as a Washington fan overall, you're skeptical. You know what I mean? So
Right.
but Tommy is proven, and he's trying to prove that he's not Ernie. And which was the biggest thing. People call him Ernie 2.0, and obviously a lot of us are skeptical, but his trade game is on point. I mean, Russ, just to get rid of Wall's contract was a blessing in itself. Then you get off Westbrook, and obviously he got off at the right time because he just didn't have that right fit in LA. But he's making the right moves. So now my big expectation for Tommy is stepping your draft game up, because if you're going to be in a spot we're at now where you're too good to get in the lottery or the top 10, top 5, but you know what I mean, so you have to learn to really be crafty as far as scouting and developing. And that's really my thing I want to see from an organization, is how to develop players, how to really scout these diamonds in the rough. Because there's last 3 drafts, there was a lot of diamonds in the rough. And you say what you want about the last 3 picks we made. I think they're good role players, but would I have made different choices? Yeah. But, that's what I want to see from Tommy. Step your draft game up. And I think that he's going to develop into a really good general manager.
Yeah, 100%. I think the last 3 guys that we drafted between Corey, Denner, and Rue are good players, good rotational players, but I haven't seen blue chip talent yet. I haven't seen all-star talent yet. And then, some of the trades and people like, we tried to trade for Domantas Sabonis, but they found a better offer because, they traded for Tyrese Halliburton. So it just kind of shows, where these guys are in their, how the league views our assets. We just don't have enough ammo, and they're good players. No knock against these guys. I think they showed flashes, but all of them have been consistently inconsistent. Rui has his flaws, good shooter, good offensive player, but defensively he's lacking. Playmaking ability, could rebound. He needs to rebound better. I think he's too strong and tall not to rebound. He needs to rebound better than what he's been doing, especially this past year. Denny making layups, left hand, shooting threes, has some just things that you can clearly see the guys need to improve on. Corey Kispert is going to be a solid role player and knocking down the 3, a la Doug McDermott, Reggie Bullock, guys like that, Duncan Robinson. So they're all good rotational players, but none of them have showed all-star potential as of yet. So Tommy, I think he's been good at drafting, but just not great. And there's always some guys that you can name behind Rui that may be better, like Tyrese Maxey and other guys. So, but no, I think you hit the nail on the head with the GM with how Tommy has done so far.
Yeah, I mean, I'm impressed, because you didn't know what you were expecting. He was underneath Ernie for so long, and very often than not, when you promote a guy up from underneath a general manager that wasn't doing so well, they adopt a lot of the same practices they do, and he really set himself apart to a certain degree because I'm not gonna get into drafting with Ernie, but as far as building around, all right, Gilbert Arenas era, building around Wall, Ernie never really. I think often than not, a lot of general managers, especially small market general managers, tend to over-evaluate their own players. And I think that, what is really going to take to surround Brad with talent, you're going to get rid of some of these guys that you don't want to get rid of. Kuz's got to go. KP's got to go. If you really are serious about getting that next star, because to get KD, to get Mitchell, to get many, to get any kind of above average quality starter in this league, you're going to have to give away assets. And, Gobert trade, man. I mean, that's redefined the whole trade game,
Right.
So
100%. Yeah. But Brandon, I just want to thank you for coming on, man. I'll put your Twitter down in the description box so people can follow you and find you. Big Washington Wizards fan, big Commanders fan. Brandon, I just want to thank you for coming on. I want to thank you guys for listening and making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. For your second listen, get up to date on the latest news and rumors in the NBA in just 30 minutes every day with Locked On NBA. Locked On NBA, your daily NBA update in just 30 minutes. Hell to the Commander. I mean, it's not hell to the Commanders, hell to the Wizards. Peace.